Picture this. It's a weekday morning in 2030. You're still on your first cup of coffee, and your AI agent has already reviewed your calendar, negotiated a meeting time with 3 other people's agents, summarized overnight market shifts relevant to your job, updated a project roadmap, and flagged the one decision that actually needs your brain. You didn't prompt it, you didn't micromanage it, you just gave it goals and it acted. Today, we're breaking down what agentic AI actually is, how it's fundamentally different from the chatbots we use right now, and what the data says about how it will reshape work, learning, and daily life by 2030. By the end of this episode, you'll understand the difference between the AI of today and the AI of 2030, why that gap matters more than most people realize, and what you can actually do to stay ahead of it. I've got someone here who has been deep in this space, and I want to start with the most basic question that I think...
So the confusion is totally understandable because for the last few years, when people heard AI, they thought chatbots, things that write, respond. You give it a prompt, it gives you an output. That's generative AI. Agentic AI is something categorically different. An AI agent is a system designed to act autonomously toward goals, rather than just responding to prompts. It plans, it decides, it executes. It reflects on what it did, and then it adapts. It can use tools, browse the web, write code, send emails, query databases, and crucially, it can coordinate with other agents and remember context across weeks or months.
So it's not just a smarter chatbot, it's more like a colleague.
That's actually the exact analogy Cambridge Open Academy used in their breakdown of agentic AI. They said, think of generative AI as a brilliant assistant waiting for instructions. Agentic AI is closer to a junior colleague who knows the objective and figures out how to get there. That framing really stuck with me because it captures the shift in who's doing the thinking.
Right, and that's a massive shift. Because right now, I'm still the one doing the thinking about what to ask. I'm the one decomposing the task.
Exactly. And that's the core of what CIO magazine called the agentic economy, the shift from do X to achieve Y. You stop giving granular instructions and start setting high-level strategic goals. The agent figures out the steps, prioritizes them, and adjusts dynamically if something changes.
Okay, so before we get into what this looks like in practice, I want to zoom out a little, because I think it's worth understanding how we even got here. Like, AI agents aren't a brand new idea, right?
Not at all. A comprehensive review published on RxEve in August 2025 out of researchers at University of Maryland, Brown, Stanford, and others traced the whole arc. Early AI agents in the 1950s and 60s were rule-based, handcrafted logic systems. They worked in very constrained domains but fell apart when things got uncertain or complex. Then in the 80s and 90s, statistical learning and reinforcement learning came in, which let agents learn from trial and error. And then deep neural networks changed everything. We got systems that could achieve superhuman performance in things like Atari games and Go.
Wait, superhuman at Go? That's wild. Go is supposed to be one of the most complex games humans play.
It is. And that was a signal that something fundamental had shifted in what these systems could do. But here's the thing, even after all that, those were still narrow systems. Superhuman at one task, useless at everything else. What's happening now, and what's accelerating toward 2030, is agents that can generalize across tasks, use multiple tools, and coordinate with each other. That's the leap.
So we went from really good at one thing to can handle a whole workflow.
Exactly. And the AAAI, the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, put out their 2025 presidential panel report in March of this year, and they flagged agentic AI as one of the central research frontiers. They noted that topics like AI reasoning and agentic AI have been studied for decades, but now have an expanded scope because of current capabilities. It's not hype, it's a field that's been building for a long time and is now hitting an inflection point.
That's a good reality check. Because I think a lot of people hear AI agents by 2030 and think it's either sci-fi or marketing. But there's serious academic infrastructure behind this.
There really is. And the data on adoption right now is already pretty striking. StartUse Insights published a data-driven outlook on AI and automation from 2026 to 2030, and they found that 29% of firms are already using agentic AI today, and 44% plan to adopt it within the next year. That's not a distant future thing. That's happening right now.
Okay, so let's get into the actual impact. What does this look like for regular people, not just enterprise tech teams?
So D4L, a digital health and data organization, put out a really clear picture of what AI in 2030 looks like at the everyday level. Their framing was that by the end of the decade, AI will look less like a single product and more like an invisible utility, embedded across homes, workplaces, public services, like electricity. You don't think about it, it's just there, working.
The invisible utility framing is so good because we don't think about electricity as technology anymore, it's just infrastructure.
Right. And that's the trajectory. D4L described it as AI coordinating calendars and supply chains, personalizing learning, optimizing energy use at home and city scale, and freeing people to focus on judgment, relationships, and originality. The stuff that's actually hard to automate.
So the pitch is AI handles the logistics, humans handle the meaning making.
That's the optimistic version, yeah. And there's real data behind it. The WAF's Future of Jobs Report 2025, which surveyed 1,000 companies across 22 industries and 55 economies, representing over 14 million workers, found that AI and automation will transform 86% of businesses by 2030. That's not a fringe prediction. That's the World Economic Forum.
86%. That's basically every business.
Pretty much. And the job numbers are interesting too, because the narrative is usually AI kills jobs. But the WEF report actually found that AI and automation will create 170 million new jobs while displacing 92 million roles. The net is positive, but the catch is that the new jobs and the displaced jobs aren't the same jobs, and they're not in the same places.
That's the part that gets glossed over. It's not just a number, it's a massive transition that requires people to actually move into different kinds of work.
Exactly. And the WEF noted that the challenge isn't just implementing the technology, it's preparing workers for roles that may not even exist yet. That's a real tension. Sayadia Zahidi, the managing director at the WEF, said it directly. Transformational breakthroughs in generative AI are reshaping industries and tasks across all sectors. The pace is faster than organizations can keep up with.
Okay, I want to push on something here because we've been talking about the enterprise side, businesses, organizations, but what about the individual? Like, what does an AI agent actually do for a person in their daily life by 2030?
So, Cambridge Open Academy painted a really vivid picture of this. They described a morning in 2030 where your AI agent has already negotiated a meeting time with 3 other agents, summarized overnight market shifts relevant to your role, updated a project roadmap, and flagged the one decision that still needs your judgment, all before you've finished your coffee. And the key detail is you didn't prompt it, you gave it goals, and it acted.
That's the part that kind of breaks my brain a little. Because right now, even the best AI tools I use, I still have to tell them exactly what to do, step by step.
And that's the 2026 baseline, according to Agent Place's industry roadmap. Right now, agents are strong at task automation and information processing, but they have real limitations. Narrow specialization, shallow reasoning, limited ability to learn from experience, and poor collaboration between agents. The roadmap from 2026 to 2030 is about closing all of those gaps.
So we're at the beginning of the curve, not the middle.
We're at the very beginning, and the acceleration is real. StartUS Insights found that enterprise AI adoption went from 55% in 2023 to 78% in 2024. That's a massive jump in 1 year. And the cost of running these models has dropped dramatically. The cost of GPT 3.5 inference fell 280 times, from $20 to $0.07 per million tokens. When the cost of intelligence drops that fast, adoption follows.
Wait, 280 times cheaper? In what time frame?
That's the figure from StartUS Insights 2026-2030 Outlook. And it matters because cost is one of the biggest barriers to adoption. When running an AI model becomes essentially negligible, it stops being a premium feature and starts being a default one.
That's the electricity analogy again. At some point, it's just on.
Exactly. And IDC, International Data Corporation, put out their FutureScape 2026 research in October 2025, and they forecast that by 2030, 45% of organizations will orchestrate AI agents at scale, embedding them across business functions. Meredith Whalen, their chief product and research officer, said this new class of AI isn't just speeding up innovation, it's reshaping how work gets done, how people contribute, and how industries will grow.
I want to bring in the healthcare angle here because I think that's where it gets really tangible for people. What does agentic AI look like in healthcare?
Healthcare is one of the clearest examples. StartJuice Insights found that AI is already saving 15,000 staff hours per month in healthcare settings and up to $80 to $110 billion annually through documentation and trial automation. That's not a projection, that's current impact. And when you think about what those 15,000 hours represent, That's doctors and nurses not doing paperwork. That's time redirected to actual patient care.
That's a really concrete way to think about it. It's not replacing the doctor, it's removing the administrative burden so the doctor can actually be a doctor.
Right. And that's the pattern across industries. Amazon is using over 1 million robots in logistics, improving travel efficiency by 10% and cutting logistics costs by 20 to 30%. Over 70% of McKinsey consultants are using AI assistants. U.S. federal agencies' AI use cases nearly doubled from 571 to 1,110 in just 1 year. The scale of deployment is already significant.
Okay, but here's where I want to push back a little, because all of this sounds great if you're in a position to benefit from it, but not everyone is. And I think the adoption data actually tells a more complicated story.
You're right to flag that. The Microsoft AI Economy Institute published their Global AI Adoption Report in January 2026, and the headline finding was that there's a widening digital divide. Adoption in the global north grew nearly twice as fast as in the global south. By the end of 2025, 24.7% of the working age population in the global north was using generative AI tools, compared to only 14.1% in the global south.
So the gap is growing, not shrinking.
It is. And what's interesting is that the US, which leads in AI infrastructure and frontier model development, actually fell from 23rd to 24th place in AI usage among the working age population, with a 28.3% usage rate. Meanwhile, the UAE is at 64%. Singapore is at 60.9%. Countries that invested early in digital infrastructure, AI skilling, and government adoption are pulling ahead.
That's kind of counterintuitive. You'd think building the best AI would mean using it the most.
It's a really important distinction. Building frontier models and actually diffusing AI across a population are two different challenges. South Korea is actually the clearest success story from that report. They surged 7 spots in the global rankings, from 25th to 18th, driven by government policies, improved language model capabilities in Korean, and consumer-facing features that resonated with people. That's a deliberate, coordinated effort.
So the lesson is that technology alone doesn't drive adoption. Policy and accessibility matter just as much.
Exactly. And that connects to the ethical concerns that keep coming up in the research. The IN10XT analysis of AI agents by 2030 flagged 3 big ones. Data privacy. AI agents will need strict data protection laws because they're operating with a lot of personal context. Algorithmic bias. Developers have to actively work to eliminate bias to ensure fairness. And job displacement. Governments may need to introduce things like AI taxation or universal basic income to support workers who are displaced.
Those aren't hypothetical concerns. Those are live debates happening right now.
Very live. And the AAAI's 2025 presidential panel was explicit that AI ethics and safety have become central themes in all major AI conferences. It's not a side conversation anymore, it's core to the research agenda. The panel also noted that the pervasive use of AI in daily life makes it a socio-technical field, which means AI researchers need to work with psychologists, sociologists, philosophers, and economists. It's not just a computer science problem.
I love that framing because I think a lot of people assume AI is purely a technical challenge, but the hardest parts might actually be the human parts.
That's where the real complexity lives. And the RxEve Comprehensive Review from August 2025, with researchers from Maryland, Brown, Stanford, and others, made the same point. They said designing and deploying unified AI agents that seamlessly integrate cognition, planning, and interaction remains a grand challenge. The technical breakthroughs are real, but so are the persistent challenges around safety, interpretability, and trust.
Let's talk about the smart city angle for a second, because I think that's where the agentic AI story gets really big picture. Like, it's not just your personal agent, it's agents running infrastructure.
Right. INTNXT's predictions for 2030 included AI agents managing traffic and transportation for optimized routes, controlling energy consumption in homes and industries, and enhancing public safety through real-time monitoring. The example they gave was AI-powered traffic management systems that could eliminate congestion, reducing travel time, and cutting carbon emissions. That's not one agent helping one person, that's a network of agents coordinating at city scale.
And D4L mentioned something similar, AI optimizing energy use at city scale. So we're talking about agents that are essentially running the background systems of urban life.
And that's where the invisible utility framing really lands. You won't interact with those agents directly, you'll just notice that your commute is smoother, your energy bill is lower, your city feels more responsive. The AI is there, you just don't see it.
Which is either really reassuring or kind of unsettling, depending on how you think about it.
Both, honestly. And I think that tension is worth sitting with. The Epoch AI report commissioned by Google DeepMind looked at what happens if current scaling trends continue to 2030 across compute, investment, data, hardware, and energy, and their conclusion was that exponential growth will likely continue across all key trends. That's a lot of capability accumulating very fast.
And the IDCA's Global AI report from 2025 put the AI market at potentially $1 trillion or more by 2030. So the financial stakes are enormous too.
Enormous. And IDCA found that 87% of companies identify AI as a top priority in their business plans right now. 76% of organizations are already using AI. 69% are using generative AI in at least one business function. The infrastructure is being built at scale, and the agentic layer is being added on top of it.
So when people ask, is this real or is it hype? The answer is the foundation is very real. The question is how fast the agentic capabilities mature on top of it.
That's exactly the right frame. And the Agent Place roadmap for 2026 to 2030 is pretty specific about the progression. Right now, agents are narrow and require human oversight for exceptions. By 2027, the prediction is multi-agent orchestration, teams of specialized agents collaborating on complex workflows, with supervisory agents managing and optimizing the teams. By 2030, the vision is agents that can handle strategic-level decision-making with minimal human intervention.
And the CIO piece on the agentic economy made the point that new roles will emerge around designing, training, monitoring, and managing fleets of AI agents. So even the job of working with AI is going to evolve.
Right. They gave the example of a content creator evolving into a creative director and agent orchestrator. You're not writing the blog post anymore, you're directing the agent that writes it, optimizes it for SEO, and schedules it. The human role shifts up the value chain.
Which is a more interesting job, honestly. But it also requires a different skill set.
A very different skill set. And that's the preparation gap that the WF flagged. The technology is moving faster than the workforce training infrastructure. That's not a reason to panic, but it is a reason to pay attention now, not in 2029.
Let me ask you something that I think a lot of people are quietly wondering. Is there a version of this where the agentic AI future is actually bad? Like, not just some jobs get displaced bad, but structurally bad.
Yeah, and I think it's worth being honest about that. The INTNXT analysis flagged that AGI-powered agents could eventually replace managers, doctors, and software engineers, and that brings both opportunities and challenges. The AAAI panel noted that the geopolitical environment has countries competing fiercely to lead the AI race, which creates pressure to move fast and potentially cut corners on safety. And the digital divide data from Microsoft shows that if access isn't democratized, the benefits of agentic AI could concentrate in ways that deepen existing inequalities.
So the technology itself isn't inherently good or bad. It's the governance and access questions that determine the outcome.
That's the core of it. D4L put it well. The next wave of AI innovation will be defined by seamless integration, ethical oversight, and real-world utility. All three of those things have to happen together. You can't just optimize for capability and ignore the other two.
And the AAAI panel made the point that AI ethics and safety are now central themes at every major AI conference, so the field is at least asking the right questions.
Asking them, yes. Answering them fully, that's still a work in progress. The RxEve review was candid that pressing ethical, safety, and interpretability concerns remain unresolved. Trustworthy autonomous intelligence is the goal, but it's not the current reality.
I appreciate that honesty, because I think the most useful thing we can do is give people an accurate picture, not a utopian one and not a dystopian one.
Accurate is the goal. And the accurate picture is the shift is real, the timeline is compressed, the benefits are significant, and the risks are also significant. The question is whether individuals, organizations, and governments are paying enough attention to shape how this unfolds, rather than just reacting to it after the fact.
Okay, so when you step back from everything we've covered, the definition of agentic AI, the adoption data, the job market projections, the digital divide, the ethical questions, what's the through line? What's the thing you want people to actually walk away with?
Here's what this really comes down to. The AI of 2030 is not going to announce itself. It's not going to be a robot walking into your office. It's going to be invisible infrastructure that's already done half your work before you open your laptop. The WEF found that 86% of businesses will be transformed by it. IDC says 45% of organizations will be orchestrating AI agents at scale. The cost of running these systems has already dropped 280 times. The foundation is being laid right now.
And the people who understand what's happening, who understand the difference between a chatbot and an agent, who understand that the shift is from do X to achieve Y, those people are going to be in a very different position than the people who are just watching it happen.
Exactly. And the actionable insight is actually pretty simple. Start thinking about your work in terms of goals, not tasks, because that's how you'll interact with agentic AI. You won't be writing prompts, you'll be setting objectives. The people who can articulate clear goals, evaluate outcomes, and make judgment calls on the things agents flag, those are the people who thrive in the agentic economy.
And pay attention to the access question, because the Microsoft data showed that the US, the country building the most advanced AI, is 24th in actual usage. The countries winning on adoption are the ones investing in digital infrastructure and AI skilling at a population level.
That's the part that doesn't get enough attention. The technology race and the adoption race are two different races. And the adoption race is the one that actually determines who benefits.
So here's where we land. Remember that morning in 2030 we described at the top? Your agent has already done hours of work before you finish your coffee? The question isn't whether that morning is coming. The data says it is. The question is, are you going to be the one setting the goals for your agent, or are you going to be the one being managed by someone else's?
That's the stakes. And the window to get ahead of it is right now, not because the technology is fully here yet, but because the habits of thinking, the skills, and the awareness you build today are what position you for 2030. The invisible utility is being wired in as we speak.
Thanks for being here and breaking this down. And thanks to everyone listening to Copilot Podcasts. If this episode made you think differently about what AI actually means for your daily life, share it with someone who's still thinking it's just a chatbot. They need to hear this.